It's my absolute pleasure to ask on stage three very distinguished speakers on the first panel on the role of heat pumps in the global transition to low-carbon economy. I have said that the IEA, Fatih Birol, has been very instrumental in pushing heat pumps on the global level. The IEA has also published its last heat pump report in our office in Brussels under the presence of Laura Kotzi, so I'm very pleased to have her here. Laura is the Director of Sustainability, Technology and Outlooks. She's also the Chief Modeler, which I think is a much more interesting sounding part of her work, because she can work with all these numbers and can put together how we think that heat pumps will develop, and she's also probably very responsible for some of the data that Michael has shown. Then I would like to ask to the stage Andrea Vallejo. Is she here already? Yeah, see there. And she's the Vice President for Commercial Applications, European, Middle East, Africa, and Latin America. So you have to spend a lot of time on planes, I assume. For Johnson Controls, one of the big heat pump manufacturers. And it's really a pleasure that we have a mix of representatives here. Then we jump over to Enrique Villamediana. He's a board member in the EHPA, but apart from that, in his real day-to-day job, he's a managing director of Panasonic Heating and Cooling Solutions Europe, also member of the Panasonic board. So a very versed expert in the industry, and more responsible maybe for the smaller parts, but they're also acquiring one or the other company, so they're stretching their legs into the big heat pumps. And then last, Luis Rompre, he's this is so many acronyms here, but at least the portfolio leader for unitary units in Trane Technologies for cooling, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, Europe, Middle East, and Asia. Yes. So I got it. Yes. Well, that's probably one of the things that you have to be able to do, make sense of a lot of small acronyms. And we will talk about the impact of heat pumps in the global world. And the way we want to do it is is this too loud? No, it's good. I have a number of background ideas for this. So we see that the change in heat pumps has to go faster. Maybe it's not, and that's what I'm seeing. That's what I was referring to, that the industry is probably coming to a screeching halt, at least when you discuss with the European market players. So that's one thing I would like to discuss, and maybe also from the IEA perspective, are we moving fast enough? We know that we have to triple heat pumps. We know that heat pump industry is investing at the moment, has invested about 5 billion or announced to invest 5 billion euros until 2050. So there's on the one hand potential. There's on the other hand, high level recognition on the different levels. And there's on the third part, very, very tremendous ambition on the modeling side. So we know that if we want to change, if we do a backcasting exercise, if we want to decarbonize heating and cooling for residential, commercial, industrial, we have to move fast. So my first round, or at least trigger of ideas for you would be, are we moving fast enough? And since the IEA has updated its net zero report, Laura, we would also appreciate a quick update of what is new in that report.
Well, thank you very much, Thomas, and I'd like to thank Michael, because he showed the key findings of the report yesterday. So maybe I'd like to give you two numbers that for me are pretty important, and both of them are 40%. The first 40% is, Michael showed you what's happening in terms of clean energy transition. And since we did this report 2 years ago, what we found striking, what did it change? Clean energy investment grew 40% in 2 years. It's extraordinary. Then we started looking at why did this number grow so much. And you basically have two reasons. One is solar, a bit of wind, and the second is electric vehicles. Basically, you nail it down to those two key clean energy technologies. There is a bit of here and there. Okay, it's good, it's great. It means that we are really decarbonizing fast electricity. We have started decarbonizing passenger cars. We haven't really started doing the rest. So this is the first 40%. We need to catch up there, especially on electrification of heat. Now, the second 40% is the following. We have been looking at industry, not only in Europe, even if in Brussels we have, I think, the tendency to look a bit too much into Europe. all around the world, the pipeline of manufacturing projects to install heat pumps from China to the US, to all the key markets in the world, and how much that's stacking up towards what would be needed, the tripling that was mentioned earlier, if we were to be on track, not only to meeting 1.5 degrees, but also to, let's importantly remember this, we need to get out of Russian gas. So how are we doing vis-a-vis that? And unfortunately, what we're tracking now, despite the great numbers that we're seeing in Europe in terms of investments, we are only at 40% of what we would be really needing. And a lot of the numbers, in both the first 40% and the second 40%, China is there first and center. So there is a couple of alarm bells here in terms of European, not only energy policy, but industrial policies that we draw from our net zero report, that pushing industrial, not only industrial policies, but really energy security policy for Europe really passes by having a healthy heat pump industry. And the same goes for diversification of energy supplies. So I will start with this.
Very good. Let's move over to Enrique, and maybe you can also relate to that. But are we moving fast enough in residential applications?
I'm not so. In fact, we have been seeing a big move. So in fact, we saw 2019, 2021, 22, we have been seeing a strong move. On the other hand, I have to say, I'm not so seeing those positive numbers Michael showed us today. So I think, Michael, you will come with different numbers in 6 months from now. And probably the R2 will be in 2022. So in fact, what we see is the opportunity is there. The manufacturers are ready in quantity and in quality. I think the innovation is coming. We are bringing very efficient, low kilowatt heat. I think we are doing everything that is needed to move this market, but definitely we need better regulation, which is unfortunately is not happening today. So in fact, Michael, your report probably next year we'll see how gas is coming up. So because we need really strong policies that are not supporting gas. So we are looking at the cheapest gas ever again. So we can see how many countries are delaying the ban of gas policies. We can say UK, we can see Germany, we can see France. We can see how boilers are subsidized again. So I think the opportunity we all have is fantastic. I think we have all the elements we need to make this happen. So because we will create employment in every type, factories, R&D, connectivity. So I think we have a great opportunity in Europe, but I'm convinced if we want to, not only in residential, but in general, if we want to take on this opportunity and look at fantastic presentation from Michael next year again, we need to be really strong in defining a strong approach. And I have to say, predictable approach when it comes to policies. Today, the unpredictability is creating, I would say, a quite challenge for all of us. But I'm very positive for the future. If that is the question,
can I shift a quick one on top of that? Because you say we're ready and we have the ambition level. Now sales are going down. Do you still see time to address policymakers for a quick turnaround? Or is that such a long cycle that it will be a valley of tears before it can get better?
Not working? Okay. 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 Yeah, I think we talk a big combination of things. For instance, we have increased the interest rate drastically in the last 6 months. That is impacting heavily new houses. That is impacting heavily the pocket of the consumers. Definitely changing that is not taking 1 month. I think changing the financial frame takes 6 months. Bring it back to normal might take 1 year or more. So that is one point. Then, yeah, policies. We definitely, if we set policies and we clarify the subsidy plans, if that is the right way or not, I will not go into that. But clarifying the policies, making clear when a boiler will be banned, for instance, or making clear the policies might contribute to accelerate the process. But I think we need to support the consumers as well. Not only with, I will not say only financially, but I think one of the challenges today is the consumers don't understand. So still, I was talking to a friend who explained me natural gas is green. Because it's natural, right? So I think it's a combination of financial, clear regulation, and good education might make a change, but I think what the change we have made in the last 6 months, I think will take some time to change back again. Yeah.
Thank you. And your clients are different, Luis and also Andrea. You're talking to operators of commercial property, you're talking to industrial operators, you're talking to district heating operators in cities. Do you see the same concerns? For sure they have the same financing constraints, right? Because they operate under the same financing conditions, or maybe Michael can do something about that, but would you consider the same slowness, or is it different?
It's different, obviously different speed, and when I saw the slide from Michael about industrial application, that was music to my ear. We see a lot of new opportunities coming in the industrial market, industrial customers, also in commercial building. That is going very fast for us. Is it fast enough? No, for sure. It can always be faster. Definitely a little bit like Enrique said, still in these applications, there's a lot of education that remains to be done, a lot of promotion. And we should not take, let's say, the customer for granted, because as he said, maybe the physics makes sense, but then we need to explain that to them. This is what we see. We need to really talk to consultants, to business owners, to show them, let's say, the technology, the innovation, and also the financial impact it means for them, right? And the other thing I think would probably help us to fast track everything we discuss. There's a lot of regulation, but not consistent across countries, across districts, across cities, across even like streets. In some village you have some rules, in the other village you have other rules. And honestly, it brings a lot of roadblocks, right? And some of these roadblocks are from the past. A lot of consultants with their own conservative way will say that heating system or cooling system or heating and cooling system needs to run at certain conditions that do not exist anymore. And honestly, if we were able to, let's say, bring down these consistency and regulation across all the steps, it will definitely help us as an industry to move faster. This is definitely things we see in our business.
And Andrea, to complete the round.
Yeah, no, I would add to that. I think definitely, and I think, again, Michael referred to the industrial being the next wave. I would say, I mean, there might be some customers that, as you were saying, are waking up to it, but I have to say many corporations have already some time ago realized that, and obviously we see not only from, we are taking a commitment as an industry, but obviously many of our customers are taking those net zero commitments, many of them talking about 2030, well, we are 2023. So you can imagine if you have 1,000 facilities across the world and you have to get there, they are already making those plans. And I think that we see, and what we see is that obviously the need they have is, it varies a lot. It's different temperatures. We talk about the industry is already covering a wider rate, and we continue to expand on that. But they need a wide variety of heat pumps. And I think that's important that that the regulation again is helping that we can provide that variety of heat pumps for different applications, because even within the industry, you need that different application. I also see that, yes, we are in the right direction, but again, we need to accelerate. The revision on the Renewables Energy Directive and the Energy Efficiency Directive are going in the right direction, but how we implement them in the countries is where we are seeing variations, where we see also that obviously, yes, it's talking about district heating, it's talking about industrial, it's talking about how we make it more circular. I think that's a very important concept. We all know waste heat is as bad as what we consume more. So the use of waste heat is very important, and I think that's also where regulation comes in, but also where we need to provide that education, that technology. We have very, very strong cases for both. I think it was mentioned within the same facility, you can do a lot with the waste heat, and that is as a relevant saving as it can be to change the heating system. But we also are seeing where we put district heating together close to data centers, heating residential. I think that is nothing new. We already have many of those projects, but that is still has a lot of potential to expand. So I would say, yes, the right direction, still a lot to accelerate. We need to make sure that There are, I would say, the saving is already per se a financing for companies, so that's maybe a bit different than in the consumer sector. But we need to make sure that we are providing accelerating those solutions.
In the past, the IEA had numbers that would conclude that we need 500 megawatts of industrial capacity added worldwide every month. I let that sit for a second, because 500 megawatt every month, you say you're ready, we have to go faster, but is also the manufacturing capacity in the industrial sector, is that available?
To be fair, I think we talked many times, it's not, I mean, you could say, of course, we need to expand manufacturing capacity. We are expanding manufacturing capacity across the industry. I think it's having that clarity of the environment, the regulatory environment, obviously having a framework that actually goes in the same direction. We see, for instance, countries in the North of Europe where they've gone already more far in terms of use of waste heat. If you have a data center, how they need to have their system set up to obviously use that waste heat. The industry around, it's getting ready for that. These projects don't happen overnight, we all know, right? They have a very long cycle from a consultancy down. So it's going to be a ramp up. Yes, it will require the industry also to scale up, but I would say the industry is more looking for that clear regulation, guidance, and the companies are also, and our customers are also committed to that.
You want to add to that, Luis?
Yeah, well, for sure, I agree we're going to have to ramp up, obviously, some production, but one thing we forget is the difference between a heat pump and, let's say, traditional chillers from the past is very different. So in terms of industrialization, everything has been done, and we're really able to do and make much more units than in the past. And because we're using similar technology, similar components, I'm thinking about the service technician that need to maintain and troubleshoot these units. These people already exist. They already know chillers, and the difference between the chillers and the heat pumps is very small, thin line to cross. So also that's another advantage that we can offer to our customers is it's a known technology that can be maintained in a long time, and we have the people to do this, especially for the suppliers like us. And the good thing is there's innovation on components every day, on fans, on compressors, and these compressors and fans can be upgraded on, let's say, old heat pumps, and then that will continue to improve the efficiency of our products and also the lifespan of these units. So it's let's say the circular economy that get better and better with our products.
I think that's a great segue to broaden the scope a little bit. You say it's a known technology. You're writing these reports, and you're writing quite a few. What can we derive from your observations on the world level? You mentioned also that maybe we're looking too much to Europe, so where should we look instead for inspiration? And is the technology, as it was described here, known to everybody?
The technology is known. It's not a problem of technology. I think that the key issues for us, I think they were mentioned. So first is a very clear policy direction and not going through Achum. It's positive probably, but we are going through a lot of hiccups now. And these ups and downs derail investment, and the lack of clarity there is really bad for the industry. The second thing is probably embracing a bit that this is really a consumer-oriented business, so the consumer has to be front and center. I'm putting something in my house. So we need to understand what that is. If any barrier to buy the heat pumps is an annoyance. And currently, so I am a very environmentally conscious person, I am wealthy. I've been trying to put the heat pumps, I will not say in which city. I still didn't manage. I didn't manage. I didn't understand all the incentives I could have benefited from. And I mean, if I don't manage to do it, can we really think that the low-income household can manage or will have the willingness to do so? So I think there is a lot of work, and Thomas, you've been doing fantastic work with the European Association, but this has to be front and center. Simplify, simplify, simplify. It has to be really the key thing. And The third thing is the following. When I mentioned the 40% earlier, the second one, it's really, I bring you back to the speech that van der Leyen did at the State of the Union, where she mentioned in a very elegant way, we should learn lessons from solar. And I think that the solar lesson shouldn't be applied only for wind, but let's take it to heat pump as well immediately. There is a competitive advantage of many European companies that you're representing here, that you are at the edge. Let's face it, certain environmental technologies in Europe, there are nobody else. There are nobody else on the planet that has them. But we need to make sure that everyone understands what is the short, medium, and long-term advantage of this, and make sure that we really reap the benefits in Europe. So there will be really three things: certainty, consumer focus, and make sure that the very high level van der Leyen trickles down then to every member state at the very highest level. This has to be a European priority for industry.
And that brings us directly back to manufacturers, because we can do a lot of things. I cannot simplify the heat pumps. I have great ideas about what heat pumps can do. I am showing constantly this triangle of photovoltaic, batteries, and electric vehicles. And heat pumps, of course. So I put the battery next to the vehicle, because the vehicle is a battery on wheels. And then we can talk about flexibility, and we can talk about benefits for the consumer, and we can say that you should market the heat pump as a technology that makes your life better, that leads to comfort, that helps you enjoy life. But I'm also saying that we have spent a couple of years, 10 years maybe, to make heat pumps known. Now we have to spend the next 10 years to make them disappear, so that they are unobtrusive and don't object, don't annoy you anymore. So Enrique, I wrote this actually down, not at this point in the discussion, but what can we expect in terms of innovation from companies like yours that make heat pumps simple, easy to install, and then disappear from our radar?
What do you mean disappear?
I don't want to see it anymore. I want the warmth, I want the shower, I want the climate, and that's it.
Okay. So we want miracles. We can do that. But in fact, first, I agree with what you said. So in fact, we need to make the process easy. And I want to add one point, and we need to make the process easy, not for let's say wealthy people. So we need to approach all the society, and that is not happening today. So, and we have solutions for that as well. But I think we need to make the people understand, and yeah, we have a job to do, manufacturers, all the stakeholders, European Heat Pump Association, but we need the state, we need the authorities. That is really important, because in the same way that when unfortunately the Ukrainian war happened, and we named the independency, energy independency, so we could see how the reaction of the Europeans came up. It was amazing. But we cannot relax those messages. We need to continuously explain this is nothing that will happen overnight, so we need to do it every day. But we have a lot of innovations, I think, coming from air-to-air heat pumps or air-to-water heat pump or domestic hot water heat pumps. It does not matter, we are bringing innovations. So we are making them extremely efficient. So whenever it's possible, we are bringing low GWP. We are making them connectable. Now we don't need to repair. We don't even need to go to repair. We can repair from home. So we are doing many things. But I'm coming back to one point you mentioned as well. All those innovations need investment. And we need to be sure, and we come to the capacity, production capacity that they were talking. So today, we have moved from not enough production capacity to maybe too much production capacity. So then we need to be sure the market is ready, not only to have capacity, but to receive that capacity. So that innovation needs to be rewarded. And that to me is the challenge. I think the manufacturers, we have proven historically we will bring the needed innovation to cope with the European targets in this case. But we need to teamwork to really realize that this innovation in quantities, in qualities, reach the consumers. And that is our common job, I would say, the common job of all of us, of course.
Maybe one more word to that, since Dora mentioned also low-income households. What's then the innovation for a low-income household, you think? Or is it even an innovation for the household itself, or do we have other market players that need to be informed about the availability of solutions?
I see too. I think, again, we have to mix up the technology. So, in fact, this is nothing new. Today, we can have big heat pumps that can be distributed in multi-family, single-family house, big family house. Already, we can see a lot of social housing projects. I think the technology is not the problem. I think, again, how to make affordable, right? So, in fact, when we talk affordable, most of the people say, again, you manufacturer, you need to drop the price. But that is not making more affordable. Let's say instead of 5,000, it goes to 3,000. For the people who is not having money, 5 or 3 or 1 is the same. So we need to really find easy ways to reach the consumers. So how to move from CapEx to OpEx. So I think we need to consider new business models. I don't know if it's new player or new ways, but definitely if we want to reach all the market, and I think we will all agree, all the people sitting today in this room is a wealthy people. It's not the mass market. So if we want to capture the mass market, we need to do something different. And I think technology, again, Thomas, technology is ready. So what we need to, again, team, maybe utilities, financial institutions, governments, we need to unite in creating the right business model to reach that point. That is my personal view.
Yeah. Let me clarify for everybody here that we are looking at residential, commercial, and industrial heat pumps always. So there is always a slightly different focus of the different members of this panel so that you're not getting confused if some person says we have end users and the end users are different people, right?
Yeah, if I can say, what is commercial for me, maybe Luis is laughing.
But let's hand the microphone over then to that exact, well, they have their own, but to that level, and especially this idea of low-income households, because it has also been abused as an argument that the heat pumps are too expensive, especially the low-income households can't afford it. Where do you put the big heat pumps, maybe the district heating heat pumps in that context? Is district heating then, with big heat pumps, the simple way into reducing emissions and making green heating affordable for the masses?
Yeah, no, I think, it's true. We know obviously boiler is cheaper, right, nowadays, so that's a reality and that we have to face it in the consumer. But I think the concept, which is very interesting, that Enrique was mentioning, and that it's, again, that's something that is already also happening, it's the as a service, changing the models, right? And for that, obviously, you need to not only focus on the equipment, but also what's the service you can provide. And that's, for instance, the case with district heating. Indeed, it's basically changing from, instead of, that's more, you could say, from what the municipalities, what cities, what also the public institutions can do. Is yes, if we are working into having more district heating, that's going to convert that into basically a service that you provide to their homes, and it's not about each individual being able to afford a one-time investment, which you can also do through subsidies, right? There are different ways to facilitate those one-time investment, but I do think that, and we are seeing it also in the industry, that they are more and more interested in less CapEx, more OpEx models, by which basically you don't have to take care of the technology. It's really having ultimately what you want at home is having the heating, having the cooling, the same in a company. And I think those models, to me, definitely are going to grow and are part of the solution. Are not the only solution, because not everywhere you can go and put a district heating, but are part of the solution.
And is that a business model for you? So your clients, the cities, the industry, they also move from investing into the product and buying the service?
We have customers doing cooling as a service and heating as a service, yes. Those are models that are starting, actually, even out in countries neighbor to our European, and in Europe, there are investments being done in already that thinking, from an ESCO perspective. So I think that's those models are existing, and I think those models will definitely be part of the solution to expand the use of heat pumps.
Thank you. I want to shift the focus a little bit, Luis, on the industrial part. Because we have discussed, you call it waste heat. We had a long discussion in our own team. Should we call it like that? I'd actually talked to a few researchers yesterday evening over dinner, and they said, don't call it that. Call it excess heat or call it residual heat. It's more friendly, and because it's not wasted in the end. It's something that we can use. This concept of excess heat or residual heat recovery.
Yes. So,
and we called this the role of heat pumps in the global transition, right?
So you're totally right. I think we need also to change our vocabulary to make it more, easy for people to understand, a more positive way, instead of being defensive, being, let's say, promoting the good stuff we can bring. So in the industries, there's a lot of energy moving from one place to another. In our company, we're talking breaking the silos between processes. So we have sometimes processes for heating, processes for cooling, running at the same time in almost every buildings, every industries. If you're able to make these processes talk to each other, work, let's say, as one organism and not just separately, that's where really you have clear benefits. And we see incredible growth around these machines. And in terms of efficiency, when you look about these systems that you can combine these silos into one, we see the efficiency gain of 400%. And when you talk about simplicity, it's also important for the industrial customers because in one machine, you can do heating and cooling in one box, in one place, instead of having, let's say, in the time, cooling units, heating units, gas boilers, piping, and so on. So this element of simplicity is also there for these type of application. And when we're talking about services, one of the biggest business in our company is rental. And we're renting a lot of heat pumps, more than ever before. And that's going to become a bigger business for commercial application, industrial application, eventually even in some ways residential when you talk about district cooling and heating.
Which means your need for bigger working capital lines is actually increasing, right? So the financial sector, as Michael said, and I guess many other people in this room agree, will become more important as a sparings partner for the discussion. Laura, I've been very happy when IEA presented the 1.5 degrees by 2050 report, because I think it was one of the first ones that really looked at this industrial applications and modeled it also. Yeah. And you're really at the core of that modeling. Where do you see the development speed of this sector?
For the industrial application?
Yes, and maybe also from other differences from country to country, from continent to continent, in your perspective.
I think so. The industrial application, the key slide is what Michael showed earlier. So we are still looking at temperatures that we hear we can go up to 200 C now. So we are really hopeful that this is going to be the next frontier. And for us, it's very clear that it's an absolute must to decarbonize the industrial sector. And maybe something else for all of you to keep in mind. We talk often about having decarbonized the power sector, started decarbonizing cars. But 1 ton of steel today we are producing emits the same amount of CO2 that 20 years ago. And if you take the entire industry compartment today, is the second largest part of CO2, 20%. So we really need to move faster there. And there is the same role that there is for residential heat, there is also for heat pumps in industrial heat. If you allow me, I would like to go back 1 minute just to the low-income customers, because I really think that that's really key. It's going to be the key to make successful the electricity heat transition. It has to be really front and center in every discussion. And when we were looking at globally in which markets there is not a difference between income distribution, there are basically 2 markets in the world where you have more or less the same shares by income distribution. It's China and the United States, for completely different reasons. So it happens that in the United States you basically have lots of heat pumps in states where either you have a very high in fact, it's air conditioning demand, let's face it. And you don't have gas networks. So everyone has had, in a way or another, had to go to heat pumps. The other way, the other approach that worked in terms of having the same distribution among income groups is the very state-rigid approach where China decided that there are certain parts, you can divide China into two. There is one part that is going to gas and the other part that is going to heat pumps, and everyone has heat pumps. Europe is much more complicated, so we need to get into our mind that neither of the two systems will work. And there is no single European country where you don't see incredibly high income disparities in the heat pump uptake. So I would really like to take it back to you as a big leader here and everyone to start discussing with policymakers what is the European solution to this.
Oh, we can answer to that pretty much immediately. We have said for a long time that we think that if subsidies are paid, they should go to low-income households in the first place. Because in the end, it's government money anyway, so it's government money that you either invest up front or you pay later for fossil energy to provide heating and then eventually also cooling for these buildings. And so if you do it like this, it's probably the easiest way to transfer from a capex to an opex, from an investment to a service orientation, because it will eventually cost the same amount of money. That's what we can show today. I think you have shown that, BEUC has shown it, that in the end, if you take a total cost of ownership perspective for residential users, for sure, the costs are the same. It's just distributed differently. Yeah, so we agree to that. But then I wanted to test your opinion on something else, because two options here. We have said we want to move faster. And we have talked to the European Commission, we have discussed with them, we have presented to them a heat pump accelerator document. Most of you have contributed to the public audition where everybody could give input to that document, eventually wanting to see a heat pump action plan. And the other thing that we are also pushing forward is to say, but maybe all these plans and all these words, strategies, activities is not enough, and we need to activate end users. And from our perspective, we think we can activate end users if the relative price between electricity and gas is going down, right? So we have said, a bit bold, a factor of 2. So if you have a factor of 2, you save 50% of your heating costs. Which of the two you think is better? And do you think, is there a difference? I mean, we go through from a bit of a global perspective, residential, commercial, industrial. What do you think? Is there any advantage? Do we need them both? Which is better, which is faster?
So in our analysis, all the countries that did not have the right fuel price are lagging behind in heat pump uptake. So that's an absolute precondition. And I think that, in fact, you need both, because if you don't have a very clear target that unifies the industry to go in that direction, you will go slower. So unfortunately, it's not an either or. I think you need both.
I think it's a combination of three. First, the price of energy should be clear. Then the people should find easy way to finance the purchase. So because it need to be a return on investment should be good. I should be able to buy it, and we should support. We should have a clear direction to them. Sorry for gas makers. Gas is finished, so I need to do it. I cannot leave it for tomorrow.
I'm a little bit like Enrique, so it's a combination of many things. One thing I would add, I think we need to continue to do promotion, education, but at all levels, all different stakeholders. And if you just focus on the government, it's not going to be enough. You really need to talk to customers, users, everybody in the full production chain. So that's going to be critical if we want to, fast track this movement.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, obviously the prices makes a big impact. We see it also in cars, right? It has actually started to take off when the price of both the technology and obviously the fuel have started to make the investment more worth it. But I would say, I think what is also important is that stability. I think we all have, solar panels you mentioned is a good example. I think in some countries, many of us have bought solar. I have solar panels, I have heat pump. Of course, definitely solar panel was maybe a no-brainer because the subsidies are very strong. So you almost, as you say, you almost know, and there is a lot of people to educate you that you can actually get that return. And it's clear because there is some time frame. While we have seen at the same time, particularly in the residential, yes, you have subsidies that might finish in 3 months. The market starts to anticipate, and we saw it in Germany. We saw it in a number of places. It has made unstable. So I think you need those. I think obviously the market. There's different views on how much you regulate the market, but in any case, I think if you're going to have those subsidies, if you're going to facilitate the access, because as you say, it's an investment, there needs to be also some view that, as you say, it's the clear direction, because we know where gas might not be a technology in the future, but there also needs to be some that stability. I think that's important.
Very good. I think that was super comprehensive. We have 3 minutes left on our clock. I want to use these 3 minutes to ask you, considering that we are not at the speed that we wanted to, for sure we're not at the speed that we predicted at the end of last year. Are you optimistic that we can turn this development around? And if you were to wish for one thing, if you were we don't have any president or king here that could mandate it, but if we were to decide something that needs to change to accelerate the turnaround, what would that be? You feel immediately inclined? Enrique, please, and then we move forward.
I should repeat the 3 points again, but I think the important point is that we all, and especially the authorities, everybody understand that the job is not done. I think this is very important. So that we put this in the mind of everybody, and then we make a predictable regulation, as we said, and we said the right direction. If we want to be green, we said the right direction. So, and of course, gas price, electricity price. So I have to repeat the same points. I cannot go out of.
But are you optimistic?
I'm always optimistic. Of course, there is. I hope we are all convinced this is unstoppable. This is unstoppable. So that is, none of us can have any doubt. This is going to happen. So what depends on us, how fast we make it happen. And we want to make it fast. So I think that is, to me, my thinking way. But unstoppable, Thomas.
Thank you. Andrea.
So I'm very optimistic too. And if I have one wish, if Prime Minister or President of each country could go on TV and be taking pictures next to a heat pump, like they like to take pictures next to a Tesla or an electrical car, that would be my wish. And I think if people start to see our product and see politicians saying this is the future, like they say and talk about cars like every day, I think that would make a big difference for us.
It's a new concept of prime time, right?
Here you go.
Andrea, please.
No, I'm very optimistic. I think we're going to continue to see that ramp up. I think the question is more, is it going to be at the velocity that we need to get the RepowerEU, the Green Deal objectives? And I think for that, is part of what we are saying. We need to make sure that we are facilitating that replacement of gas and facilitating the technologies that are needed to do that at a velocity. And I think that's more, I think it's really the velocity that it's going to be the key, but very optimistic.
Thank you. And Laura?
I really think this industry is the next solar PV, EV. You're here. You're really here. So go with that pride, go out there, and if you need, scream to the very high-level policymaker. Make sure that next year, if van der Leyen is still there, in the State of the Union, mentions heat pumps. This would be my first thing. Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I had anticipated that I would enjoy this panel. I hope you did as much as I. You did a very good job. Thank you very much. Enjoy the coffee break and see you in half an hour.
Thank you.